Hey everybody, welcome back to the United States Leader Show. I'm your leader, Ronald, and as you might have already suspected, that this show is about bringing you closer to the truth about the way things are, about the nature of reality, about political truths, financial truths, so that you can start making a decision based on facts or what's closest to the truth. It seems like the mass media is programming people to see the world in a certain way, the law in a certain way, your power, control, and entire existence in a certain way. So, I like to bring on guests, as you know, who are going to give you their truth and not from any kind of manipulated scenario. There's no political agenda here. It's just another person, living soul, wanting to help mankind by giving their testimony and their truth. So that's what today's show is going to be about. I'm here with Logan Henderson, and he is going to be sharing with you some esoteric things that I think are going to help you get more of a clearer picture about the true nature of reality, the power of your mind, the power of the shape of the earth domain, technologies that might be being used against us or by us without our consent or awareness. So welcome, Logan. His dad is Rob. So I met Logan through his dad, Rob, who there's another video on this channel about Rob Henderson's alien encounters. Now, Logan's going to be discussing some of his things regarding, well, you can tell us. So welcome, Logan.
Thank you very much, Ron. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we had a chat before we started, and you have a story to tell, and I kind of want you to give us a little bit of background on yourself and then go into the story that you told me about your awakening, and then we'll get into some more things about politics, astral projection, lucid dreaming, meditation, things like that.
Well, I can give you, I'll start with my current profession. I'm a bridge inspector, which doesn't really have anything to do with esotericism. I'm married. I've got 3 kids. And I will say that...
Here, come closer to me.
I'm trying to think about my experiences with metaphysics and esotericism, which is really where my main interest lies and always has been. And I was telling Ron before we started this video, I grew up as a teenager with P.D. Ouspensky and Gurdjieff and all the alien books because my dad has always been so interested in that stuff and on his journey to truth and through his experiences. So in some regard, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. And as a teenager, I'd say the first experience that I had that really shook me was I was waking up one morning and I couldn't feel my body even though I was conscious. And not only that, I was shaking, almost violently shaking, and I couldn't not do it. And it was a very real and a very scary experience for me. So I had to go find out what the heck happened to me. And there happened to be a store in my town called the Psychic Bookstore. So I went there and introduced myself and got to know the people that worked there. But the one person there knew exactly what happened, at least he thought he did. I thought I was being possessed by some demonic presence or something, but he told me that he thought it was an astral projection, and it sounded like he had heard a lot of different accounts, and him himself have had that same experience. So with me, that catapulted me into this arena of interest. Like, what is this astral projection? How can I, explore this world more? And this is, again, after reading a lot of these philosophy books from Gurdjieff and Ouspensky and all kinds of different esoteric stuff. It just ignited that fuel and interest for me. So I started doing a lot of meditating, and I started doing pretty well with meditation as far as what I would call astral projecting, going to different places. Like I know for sure that I went to a planet that was called the Draco. I went to a planet in the Pleiades. I don't know what the name of it is, but they had these really tall crystalline towers that these energy beings worked out of, just like people would work out of a high rise in New York. very similar, just on a different energetic frequency. I've been to Mars. At least I thought it was Mars. I've talked to beings from Mars that were giving me some descriptions. This is going back 24 years ago, giving me descriptions on things that are kind of happening right now. Not exactly, but pretty much telling me that there's some cataclysms that are going to be coming. So very, I don't know, very interesting. Anyway, those are the main experiences and topics that happened as a teenager. There's many more type of esoteric or metaphysical things that I explored and got into. I mean, as far as like I got into Druidism, understanding that, got into Buddhism, got into all these different types of teachings to better understand the world that we live in, because it's, as a teenager, everything seems so animated and so miraculous to me that anything that I saw would read on the surface level of what I was getting from the outside, be it media, television, just wasn't really giving me an explanation of what my experience was, which was we're living in a far more miraculous and amazing world than we're being told that we're living in. And I started to get this sense, even as a teenager, that we as human beings are so much more capable than what we're being allowed to explore. But I didn't know what that meant, really. And I've spent my entire life with that sort of missing spot going. And really, until 2020 happened, I mean, this was just like the pan over the head. It was like something just said, now it's time to really start waking up. Hold on to your seat and buckle up, because you're going to get fed so much information so fast. We're talking 200,000 years of information and truth that we're going to be downloading into you that, you know, let us know when to stop. And it's been happening full on download since, to the point where I've been doing a lot of writing. I've been doing a lot more meditating. I even started my own little podcast because I feel like, shoot, I need to start getting some of this information out there.
Where's your podcast? Is it on YouTube or?
It's on YouTube. It's called Eye of the Heart Podcast.
How do you spell it?
EYE? So it's I, like the I, capital I, of the heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
H-E-A-R-T.
Yeah, H-E-A-R-T.
So check out his channel, Eye of the Heart, on YouTube. Subscribe, definitely, and listen. Because he's a truther. I'm a truther. We're not trying to manipulate like the mass media does. This is about giving you our truth, his truth, anyone who I'm interviewing or he might be interviewing. We are giving you an unfiltered, non-agenda truth so that you can become more awake. This is about the awakening. Now, did you want to get into your story about what happened with the cigarette?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So one of the... Can I put this?
And this is about possibility of living in multiple realities. We had discussed the possibility that maybe it was a 20 and back age regression, like what we talked about Corey Good, but it seems like it might be more like you realize that there's maybe multiple lifetimes you've lived or something. So go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So again, I was a teenager. A lot of these experiences that I had. 17? Yeah, I think I was 17. I was 16, 17, somewhere in there. The bulk of the main experiences that I was having was between the ages of 15 and 18. And I ended up having a severe panic attack for 2 years after that, which is a whole nother crazy story.
And that could be from a Kundalini experience sometimes.
It could be. I mean,
it does result in brain chemistry changes and things like that.
It was life-changing, much for the better. I mean, that panic attack disorder, going through that, and the vividness of what that is, and getting over it without anything. I mean, doctors wanted to give you pills, and, you know, parents are really worried, and we need to get you better, losing your job. All this stuff seems bad. But really, at the end of it, I came out, I mean, every profession that I really ever did after that was all about facing fear. And that's how I got over it, was you have to face the fear. If you don't face it, then it's going to always run you down. So, and fear always pops its head up everywhere. So my suggestion with that, because of the panic attack disorder, is always face it. You can't run, you can't fight, but you face it. And it's amazing, you know, how the things you would think you'd normally be afraid of, you're not, when you just put yourself into that experience. And panic attack disorder is, it's a horrible disorder, and it's, you know, but you can get over it. With
I had a panic attack the first time I did. The only time I ever had a panic attack was my first time doing stand-up comedy in New York. Right before I went on stage, I started my heart started racing, my vision started narrowing, I couldn't hear, I thought I was going to pass out. And then this other comedian saw it happening and is like, hey man, just relax. You're about to, it's all going to be fine. Just breathe. And I was like, and then they called my name, like in the middle to go up on stage. And I just had to go up there and do it. And I did, and it worked out fine. But it was horrible. For like a minute, I thought I was going to faint. And I've never fainted before.
Imagine that for almost 2 years, almost every day.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
That would cause me. I'd probably kill myself, honestly.
There'd be times.
It's painful.
There'd be times when I literally would be balled up in my room on the floor, and my eyeballs just burning on fire, and I just can't sleep, can't do anything, just completely freaking out. And then it got to the point where my breath, I couldn't breathe. I mean, I'd sit there and just go.
Trying not to pass out.
Well, just trying to breathe, like I couldn't breathe. Like I just felt like this is like someone had like their hand around my neck or on my chest, and I just just go through these spouts of that.
So did that just come on suddenly through an experience that you had?
Driving down the road one day, like nothing happened. I was at a friend's house. I was driving home, and all of a sudden it just hit me. Like it just hit me out of nowhere. Like I was just fine. It was like sunshine. And
were you in the middle of nowhere when you were driving?
No, it was on Oslo Road. As a matter of fact.
Were there any cars around you? Was it nighttime?
Daytime. Yeah.
Because I've interviewed some people who have had alien abductions, and time as we know it, I think if we're in some type of a simulation, like Elon Musk says, we're not really in base reality, then whoever's controlling the simulation can turn on and off time and stop the game, maybe do something with us, and we don't realize it. And then they start the game, and it's for us as if no time has passed.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that for sure.
So you never know if something external caused that you have no idea about. Maybe you had a fraction of a second of awareness of what was going on, and it was so fearful. I had sleep paralysis one time. I woke up in my trailer in Los Angeles, and I woke up and I felt like there was a being coming into my room, and I was screaming as loud as I could, but there was nothing coming out. I couldn't move. And by the time the sleep paralysis was over, all that came out was just like a breath, but I knew for a fact something was coming in at me, and I was so terrified. It's the scariest I've ever been, that I was screaming as loud as I could, and nothing could come out, and I couldn't move. And that's just from a fraction of a moment of believing, really believing that this entity or being was coming at me from behind a closed door in my room. And I was terrified. And I'll never forget that. And it only lasted for about 10 seconds, but it's the scariest thing I've ever been through. So tell me the story about what happened to you.
Right. So that makes sense. For this story kind of goes into that when we're talking about consciousness and how consciousness possibly works. Right. We're trying to figure this out. We're really just exploring consciousness right here on this planet, anyways. As we're expressions of it. But this particular aspect, I was a teenager. I smoked cigarettes at the time. I probably smoked half a pack to a full pack a day. Not a very good habit. But I was waking up one morning, like a normal morning. The sun was coming in, the blinds, my eyes are closed. I was about to get up, but something was just kind of like, stay here a little bit longer. And I did, and what ended up happening was this ringing kind of went into my right ear. And then as the ringing got louder, the brightness behind my eyelids got louder. And it got so loud and so bright to the point where I wanted it to stop. But again, I want to say it's a small, still voice. Something just said, just keep laying through this experience. So I just kept laying through the experience, and it got so loud, and just to the point where I couldn't take the sound of that frequency anymore, and the brightness, it stopped. And so I woke up, but the odd thing was that I had asked myself, who am I? And I didn't really know who I was. Like, it took me a few seconds, like solid seconds, to go, okay, I'm Logan. Okay, that's who I am. All right. And then the room was kind of like, I had to figure out where I was, but it took a few minutes. I was like, okay, yeah, I got everything in place now. This is who I am. This is where I'm at. I know the street. I know the city. I know the state. Okay, we're really good. Like that. It took a while for me to really encompass it. But the next thing that was really kind of got me was the routine. And I'm a very routine-orientated person. was then, am now. And every morning there was something that I did, but I couldn't remember what it was. So I go into the kitchen and I'm kind of like, standing there like, what the heck am I supposed to be doing? And I finally realized, you don't really have a cigarette first thing when you wake up in the morning. So I went outside, took me a little while to find the lighter. I lit it up, and right on that first inhale, I coughed like I'd never smoked a cigarette, and this wave of dizziness came over me. And right in that flash, I had realized I had been gone an entire lifetime. And I was just like, I have been gone an entire lifetime. And I can't really explain how profound that is when you can take a millisecond and you can expand that millisecond and give it a sphere and a structure and go inside of that sphere and sit in it and go, whoa. I didn't know where that space was. All I knew was that it felt like I had been gone an entire lifetime. And the fact that I got so dizzy from a cigarette and coughed like I'd never smoked one before was the validity to me. So we talked about that value structure in the ether and how that works going through and down into this dimension also. That was the value I needed that solidified to me. I went somewhere. Consciously, I lived a whole nother life. I can't remember what it was. I didn't know where I went. And still to this day, I really don't. But it has carried through with me, and it's made me want to explore deeper and heavier into consciousness through meditation and through prayer and through reading other people's awesome material that I come across to see if these value structures have a definitive equation or a number that makes sense to me personally, so that I can continue, to evolve as an expression, just like everyone else is doing on this planet, in this realm. But that was another big one for me.
So you came conscious from a sleep, heard a very high-pitched frequency, and saw a very, very bright light.
Yep.
That became so intense you couldn't take it anymore, and then suddenly it went away.
Yep.
And you realized that you had, in a moment maybe, lived an entire another life or other lives someplace else as a different persona.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you were having an astral projection or a lucid dream? Sometimes I believe, and I ask this because I think that when we go to sleep or when we're unattached to this current waking persona right now, mm-hmm. that when we're sleeping or unconscious or astral traveling or lucid dreaming, that we're literally in another reality, living consciously as another entity or persona someplace else in another vibration or frequency.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I like that explanation. I think that really you can really go down the rabbit hole as far as when we're talking about density, we're talking about dimension, we're talking about consciousness, and we're talking about through all the densities that exist in this universe and all the dimensions and parallel dimensions that we are really going through right now, all simultaneously, every moment of every day, every second, God, the rabbit hole is deep when it comes down to how does consciousness want to express itself, and how do we as vessels of consciousness express what that truth is and what that is? Because really, what we're here to do, what I feel, the main purpose is to really be an expression, to go what we need to go through, to have fun, to dance. It's like a play, kind of like what Alan Watts, he would say in his presentations, it's really a dance. It's really all a play. And if you really take the fear paradigm out of life, what do you have? You have enlightened beings, and it kind of
in a joyful experience,
having a joyful experience, and really, this is our purpose. If you talk to anybody, doesn't matter where they're at on the financial spectrum, or where they're at with their job or their business or whatever it is, if you ask them, what's the one thing that you want most in life? What do they always say? Happiness.
Just be happy.
I want to be happy. And why is it that no one can find the elusive happiness? Well, this is when we're kind of getting into that talk. We've had the proverbial, boot on our neck. Human beings are waking up. We are ascending. It is happening. I can feel it. I felt it before the COVID thing. We're out back. My wife and I were talking, and this was probably like October of last year. and I've been having these weird downloads, like something's coming. I was sitting out there talking to her, and I said, Trace, I said, I'm telling you, there's like a cap, and I did it like this, like there's a cap, and this is humans right now, and it's the cap is going like this, and I said, we're about to go like this. I know it, I can feel it. 2 months later, freaking next thing you know, here comes freaking COVID-19 steamrolling down the tracks. And I didn't put two and two together until after a few months of kind of like going, well, this is big. This is the biggest buggery. They've made so many mistakes. I don't know how anybody believes this shit. It took me a while to get over that denial of this is actually happening, to go, wow, this is the big event. This is the big changer. This is gonna wake so many people up, because how can it not? It's like as above, as so below. It's like when you have something that really looks negative or really horrible, what's the other part of the polarity doing? We're walking through the polarities. We know the polarities exist. The one goes this way, the other one goes that way just as much.
Clarity through contrast.
Yeah,
we see what we don't want, and we know what we do want, and we've got all this. The whole political structure has been lying to us about everything, and is continuing to. And people are waking up, going, "Wait a second, this doesn't seem right at all." And in fact, one of the things you just mentioned about this awakening, and we discussed, was about this possible DNA awakening.
Yeah.
And I've put a video on my show already. You saw the Norb's World video I put up about the structure of the Earth, and there was a timeline. And supposedly on December 21st to basically the 31st, there was going to be a planet of 2020. There was going to be a planetary alignment that didn't seem to happen. There were some alignments, but I think, and I'm not I'm not religious, but I believe the Bible is there as some type of a predictive programming tool where the powers that be are trying to manifest us get us to manifest revelations through like the 100th monkey syndrome. But I think that the Norb's World video with those dates is off a little bit, and we're still about to go through this awakening and DNA upgrade with this gas that's going to come from the North Pole, spread across the face of the Earth, and it's going to coincide with a fake or a false flag nuclear war. And I just wanted to mention that before I forgot about that. So when you mentioned about this upgrade or this thing that we're breaking through, I think that this is all part of this entire experience that we're going to be going through, and we're still going through for the next year or two, I would say.
I mean, yeah, it's funny when I think about it. I don't really see. It's hard to see an end in sight. I kind of gauge things on in this sort of realm of this density, which is what I'm seeing in my senses when I go out into public. I'm like, I don't see this ending. So when you see it, so many people just seem like they're just not really getting it. I could be wrong, but my overall sense is this is going to go on a while. Really, I mean, the people have the ultimate choice in all of this. If everyone really was to kind of consciously band together and go, I'm done with this, I'm not wearing my mask, I'm not getting a vaccination, this is not happening. Well, guess what happened? They could not roll it out. You can't have a very small fraction of people control billions of people, which they are doing, but not when millions of people are waking up. You can't control that. You just can't. We have the power. We are the people. I mean, it's just a matter of us coming together. And this came to me too, which we're also going through a crisis of identity. We have been taught for so long that we are divided, and we're not just divided through our borders and divided through our beliefs and divided through nationality, politics, color. And not just from the baseball and football teams that we're like. We've been divided so much that we've been pulled to an individual. We've been divided so that each person
6 feet apart.
Well, now, yeah, it's really bad. But even way before Corona, like the crisis of identity. Everyone's trying to figure out who they are. Like, what's my purpose? What am I doing here? And they'll go their entire life with that question and never have the answer. Well, the real answer for my truth tells me that we are all a collective. We are all really spirit. And what happens is that
living souls having an apparently physical experience.
That's exactly right. And if we really open ourselves up and we start to contact soul, or allow soul or spirit to live through this body, what we then realize is that we are an expression that we can be many at one time, we can be one at one time, all at once. We are many and one all at one time. And this kind of goes into these astral travels and these conscious journeys that we end up going on, that we do have shared experiences. I mean, I've had shared experiences with other beings, like especially recently. I guess if you want to talk about it.
I was going to ask you, Tell me your technique to produce an astral projection, and then, of course, that'll explain some stories that you have.
Okay, so I have not astral projected that I know of intently since I was a teenager. What I have done recently through meditation is activating a light body inside of me. And when activating the light body, it's like I don't have any control over what happens. It's funny, like sometimes I'll go.
So you don't try and direct the experience.
No, I direct the experience as what is the feeling or the thought is telling me what needs to happen next. And I don't know if that makes sense, but usually what happens with it is that I activate light body. Number one, first thing with meditating is you got to clear all the garbage out. So you're just basically almost an empty vessel. You can feel things and you can feel the sensations of what's happening around you, but
you're not thinking.
You're not thinking. If anything, focus on the sensations, because then you're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm alive. This is absolutely, so you can feel these incredible sensations. You're entering into that quantum awareness, this quantum actualization. You're a quantum being. And once that begins to happen, you're getting your vibration level up, ready to activate that light body. And that light body, what I do is this Merkaba light body. I take the Merkaba, I activate it by spinning it opposite directions inside of me, and then it does what it wants. Like sometimes it won't be a fast spin. Other times it really takes off, and then the emotion hits, and it's like I can feel this jolt, and tears come down my eyes, and that's when I know I'm really generating this connection. And then all kinds of things happen. I've done remote healing with people. I've even joined with angels. I've spoken with other civilizations, like this one came up like a month ago. Anshar, I don't even know who Anshar is. Like I had to look it up afterwards. I activated it, and then this being came to me as a representative, and he said Anshar. And I was like, okay, this is, I got a great feeling. And we did a whole healing on the earth. Like we were taking light and just sending it through the earth and going around the toroidal, energy of the planet. And I was crying. I was just like, this was just absolutely amazing. And it must have been probably a 30-minute meditation. It seemed like it was a snap. But anyway, that's just an example. I mean,
it's interesting you say the toroidal energy of the earth, because that's what I've been thinking based on the Norb's World Martin Kenny model, is that it is a toroid field coming through with the aurora borealis coming in through the North Pole, coming into inner Earth with, the energy spreading out and then going out through the bottom and coming around this electromagnetic shell that's surrounding all of the different levels or rings of this earth. And you've said you've traveled to Mars, you've traveled to the Pleiades, Draco. When you travel to those places, do you experience going through space, or do you suddenly arrive in an atmosphere, or what does that look like?
I'll tell you, well, from these experiences, because those experiences were different from my current experiences for whatever reason. Like the way that I'm perceiving these experiences to happen is there's a definite difference there, and it could be because the awareness wasn't at the same level it was then as it is now. So my perception of it may have been different, but I will describe it as it was then. And what it was the first experience was I went into meditation. This wasn't a dream; it was an actual meditation, deep one. And I ended up just appearing. I just appeared on this planet where there was fire everywhere. Buildings were on fire. I was in a line, and I had a chain around my neck, and I was chained up to a whole line of people that were just like just dirty and not clean. It was very dark. And there was this two-legged dog, and as soon as I appeared there, this two-legged dog just was wanting to bite me, and there was like this guard or something holding it back.
Wow.
And I do remember seeing a figure when I was going through this line that looked, and this is going to sound funny, but it reminded me of like what Hitler looked like. You know what I mean? It was the same type of thing, and I almost looked like had like a uniform on too, like the Nazis would wear. It sounds strange, but that's what I saw. But this is what happened. These little beings, man, they're probably like maybe 3 foot tall. That kind of remind me of like 7 dwarves or something like that, but not really, but that's what they would remind me of. They were able to pull me out of this line. And I'm like, I'm like in here, I'm going, what am I doing? What am I like doing here? And they were bustling like hell to get me out of there, to the point where they didn't think they were going to be able to get me out. So we went off to these buildings that were all on the side of the street on fire. Like they were running me through. They thought that we weren't going to get out. Suddenly we ended up in this room. There's a portal on the floor, and they said, get down there. So I just jumped down this portal and went through. I went through the portal, and this is when I went to what I thought was Mars, because it was a red planet. So when I went there, I descended down upon it. It was like I went through the portal and I could see a red planet, and I went down until I actually, almost like if I was weightless, I went down, and there was a being there, and this being was showing me Earth, and it was telling me and showing me all these like tunnel systems that go all through underneath the Earth. And what it showed me is that these tunnel systems were going to be engulfed with fire, like through like magma or something like that. I could see, after that started happening, I could see like there's these big eruptions that were happening, like volcanoes and that kind of thing. Like it was like this big event. And basically I was like, well, what are you showing me? And it was like, this being said, listen, your human beings are vital in the process of the ascension process. Like you human beings, even though you may feel disconnected from each other and the universe and the rest of the beings that live in this solar system and universe, we're very intrinsically connected. So if something happens with you and your species can't, get on track, basically, is what it was telling me, there is going to be a massive destruction event is what's going to happen. And they didn't say it was going to, but they said there is a high probability that it would be. And if we don't get our act together, then it's basically going to stunt the evolution of not just us as humans, but everything. That's what this thing was telling me. And then I started kind of pulling away out of the meditation. And I didn't want to go, but I was being pulled away. And it was funny, I was being pulled away, that this being started glitching. Like it was like a glitch, almost like a computer, almost kind of like a Max Headroom kind of weird thing. Like it started glitching out. But he did say that, this is going to sound kind of probably egotistical, but I don't mean it anyway. He said, there's a key that you have. They gave you a key. This is the key. Take this with you. And I was like, okay. And that's another big one. I was like, what the hell is that key? Because I'm like the most, like,
non-egotistical.
Yeah, I mean, I know I have a pretty high ego, I guess, at times, but not like in that sense where I'm
so
like...
what was the key?
I have no clue. I have no idea. Ever since then, the two things I've always wondered about what happened with me was, where did I really go? What really happened? What is this key? And where the heck did I go on that conscious journey that one time where I was gone an entire lifetime? And this happened, I'm 40, so this happened would have been over 20 years ago. I never had any real answers until 2020. But all this information is really getting out there. I mean, some really cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot to weed through and a lot of misinformation to get through. And like we talked about David Wilcock and Corey Good and these other people. I mean, there's pieces of that make sense to me, but other pieces I put back down on the table because
some things resonate and some
things don't. And I think that's the biggest thing with anybody is that what resonates with you, and that's it. Like if you're not in touch with yourself and you're depending on other people, other things, without having any ability to know what resonates with you or not, you're going to be going down every door you open will be a untruthful or a misleading or a lie. Basically, the only discernment anybody really can ever use is there.
And that comes down to resonation, like what resonates with us. And if you think about resonation, we're emitting energy from our heart chakra and our subconscious mind, and that forms a waveform. And when we're putting out this waveform, we're going to come in contact with other waveforms, and if they don't match up, then there's going to be, resistance. It's going to be waveforms that don't match up. So if it's not resonating with you and your waveform, then I think that's where that feeling comes from. You can read different energy, just like a dog can read if a person is benevolent or not, But these kids, man, they are so much smarter on the computers than I was. I didn't have a computer of my own until I was like around 23 years old, 24, when I went in the military. So
yeah, they're smart. That's crazy. You see that generation, they're picking up, like my 5-year-old, she knows how to navigate a phone better than I do. And I'm like, this is not good. But I think it's built into that. It's built into this whole matrix that we've been talking about. I mean, it's like they get automatic download. They pick it up like that. They don't have that.
It's like that 100th monkey syndrome. When a certain amount of the species learns a certain thing, then automatically it becomes part of that network of mind that is connected to that species. Now, I wanted to go on and talk about when you were having that experience you just described, there's got to be, that's an intense experience. How do you, and this is really for the benefit of people listening who might do meditation, astral projection, try lucid dreaming. How do you handle staying calm and not actually yanking yourself out of there accidentally?
The thing about with me is that it's so ecstatically amazing that there's not any part of me that wants to have.
So there's no fear.
No, as a matter of fact, it's there's
You're
zero.
intrigued and you want to do it and
It's
probably
absolutely
excited.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the things too. There's a guy on. I've seen him on Gia. Have you heard Bill Carson? He traveled.
Bill Carson on what, Gaia TV?
On Gaia TV, yeah. I think that's his name. Anyways, my point being is that what was I going to say? What was Bill Carson talking about that I wanted to bring
About
up?
the amazement of the journey or something?
No, he was. All right, I can't remember now, but I'm going to go back to what I was going to say. Oh, that's what it was. He was talking about walking meditations, okay? And he would go on these walking meditations, and he kind of described, like, what it was like for him when he's doing these walking meditations.
So what, he'd be out walking but meditating?
Yeah, like on the beach or something, having a conscious meditation as he's walking.
And that's another reason to unplug from headphones and cell phones and TV and go out and walk in nature and not be plugged into something where you got this music or whatever flooding your mind. It's good to disconnect.
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I've never heard of running meditations, and what I've been doing lately is that I found that jogging, has been one of the most profound arenas where I've actually had some amazing things happen, and there's so many. I'll tell you one of the biggest experiences that I had on a running meditation.
Are you plugged in when you do it, or
Well, what I usually when I start running, because like running is kind of arduous. You know what I mean? It's like you're running, and it's like I'm like but. Once you start getting the chemicals start flowing, right, and you start, you can start to feel the dopamine and the serotonin and these things starting to kick in. That is usually when I feel like I'm gonna do something here, and it always has to do with getting the light body going. And if I feel inclined to do that, I will. And then it's like sometimes it just really takes off, and I'm like tranced out where. Like I'm gone a mile. I didn't even know what happened. There's one particular one. I'll share this one because this is where I really learned about how soul convergence. And I did a whole video on soul convergence and timeline convergence on the Eye of the Heart podcast. But this is where I really learned about what that was. And I'm not a Bible person, or anything like that. When I was running, I did the activation, and it was an explosion of emotion. And what came to me was Archangel Michael would come to me, and it was flying with me as I was running. And I'm like on the third, fourth mile at this point.
You could feel it, or you could see him?
I could see. I could totally see. It's like I can't even describe it.
Your eyes were open?
Eyes are wide open. I can almost see it if you were to almost take like a transparent paper that has a drawing on it and lay that over top of a full picture, you can move it around. You can still see. It's almost like another part of my mind or consciousness was able to see this. It's hard to describe.
Oh, like you're basically opened up another frequency receptor in your brain,
right,
where you're now receiving even more light and sound through your body. Because we do have a limited perspective that we receive and transcribe.
Yep.
So maybe what's happening is you're actually transcribing even more light wave energy.
It could be. I don't know what that is. I mean, it'd be interesting to, on a scientific level, to be able to measure that somehow. But with this particular experience was this Michael came and as a matter of fact was asking me to merge. Okay, so I was like, well, okay. I'm like, I'm running. I'm emotional. I can see it happening, and boom, there was this merge that happened. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, I could feel the wings come out of my back. It was just like, I could feel it whooshing against the air. And I can tell you, I was tired. It was so intense that I was like, I started sprinting. I'm like, I could feel it. And I'm like, holy crap. I mean, I could see it, and I could feel being two different beings at one time. And it was like, it was swooshing and going and going. And I sprinted all the way back to the house. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm sitting there, and Michael, I said, listen, it's like you can't, there's not words. It's like it's a telepathic thing where basically what was explained to me, this is how on a higher density level this is how it works. It isn't you or us or them. It's that this is the convergence. This is how we communicate. This is how we learn about who each other are, and that there's no lies or portrayal or anything in that realm. It's all just truth. It's all just real. Everything is real there. And it was funny with Michael, was really neat. He asked me, can I take a piece of your consciousness with me down through here? And I was like, of course, because he wanted to take it there, because whatever is there is going to be a whole other lesson of something that will end up coming back to me whenever I possibly may need it. And it may have something to do with all this crap that's happening.
Maybe he's just protecting it for you to give it back to you later.
Maybe. I don't know.
So much misinformation and disinformation.
Maybe.
It's an uncorrupted part of you at that moment that he can get back to you later on. It's almost like putting something in a safety deposit box. So
it could be. It could be
secure for you to use it later.
That's what I felt like. It was like, we're gonna keep this safe, and you go back to doing what you're doing, but a part of you is here safe with me. And it's funny. I feel a tether to that. Even to sitting right now, I almost feel a tether.
You could probably recreate those experiences, almost become a new kind of energy body if you wanted to.
Maybe so. This is what's so fascinating about this, and why I feel like as a quantum being, this is why I really get into. When I talk to people, I get excited about talking about our body as a quantum body, because, like we were talking about earlier, people are so consumed by everything that's happening in their life purposefully, with the enslavement of money, enslavement of, emotions, everything you can think of, that we just completely forget that we are the most amazing quantum technology that exists. As far as we know, we are the most, amazing, quantum technology that could ever possibly exist in this universe. And the fact that we can transcribe consciousness the way we do, retain memory, and fully live out an expression the way that we do is not even a scratch on the surface of the full potential that we have as human beings. And right now, we're trying to, as consciousness, with all the cell phones and everything that's going on, we are skipping over the fundamental idea that we are the greatest technology. We're just like, no, forget us. We'll just go to cell phones and laptops and computers.
And that's how we'll communicate, when we really could be communicating telepathically.
Right.
Like, I watched a study, a show where they put two people 50 miles apart and asked one person to send love to the other person 50 miles away, and they were able to video their energy body. And they saw this ball of energy come out of their solar plexus and immediately 50 miles away enter the other person.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So it's this energy transfer that we can do, and we don't need outside technology. In fact, it's disabling us.
Yes, it is. It's meant to do that.
It's meant, yes, so that we're losing our individual power, our collective consciousness power, and I agree with you about that. It's just amazing. I've often wondered and tried to visualize and understand what it might be like to be a light being or a higher density being and move up and have these different powers. And I've never heard anybody explain it in a way that I could actually physically, mentally grasp it and understand it. And that's great. Just that nugget of information has helped me, and I think the listener, viewer, understand. Now, have you ever done any meditation on what you see might be happening in the future? What's coming down the pike over the next year, 2, 6 months, well, then what's your feeling about that?
I haven't meditated or done any sort of asking higher self of what to expect or where to go. It's funny, I've been more geared towards experiences like I just shared with you. It's for whatever reason, that's what is my soul expression is saying. Just continue this path doing this, and that's all that's come to me so far. My feeling with all of this, it's a twofold system. I think that there's a energy wave that that happens in this universe throughout the time of the universe, and we just happen to be existing at this moment throughout. I mean, I really look at things as timeless. Time is an abstract thing. It's not even really real. There is really no linear time. I think that folding into your question, we're folding into a paradigm of understanding time is not really linear, but it's actually more geometrical, where we'll actually see overlapping simultaneous timelines happening as people become more aware. But what's happening with this waveform it's out of control of any human being or anything. This is just the universe, source, God, that natural fluctuations of which it does. Okay. Now, at this point, I guess you could call it that there's going to be a ton of people that are going to resist it. They're going to still want to stay into this idea of they're an individual. They're going to stay into the idea of my jet ski and my four-wheeler makes me happy and money makes me happy and I don't want to get out of this. But there's going to be other people, beings that are going to really feel this harmony. They're going to feel that it's time to let go of the old belief structures. It's time to let go of the illusion, the veil. It's like I'm done with the lies. I'm done lying to myself. I want to be truthful, and I see that there is a happiness or a joy at the end of this, and I choose this path. I see that happening with groups of people. Like there's going to be a group that does that, and there's going to be another group that really is going to resist. What is going to be the outcome of that? I don't know. I mean, I have no clue, but I feel like it's going to get worse before it gets better, especially now. I mean, I just feel like we're going to start really seeing some hard times. But my feeling is that on the other end of that, we're going to see a reprieve, a break finally, and I think it may coincide with this waveform. I think it may just go on, but I don't know.
I think that waveform is coming, and it's going to awaken everybody to become more powerful beings. And then I think the negative forces in this reality are going to lose a lot of their control over us. That's kind of how I feel.
I'd like to hear that too. That's positive. I love hearing positive things, and I try to keep that positivity going. Some people I listen to get real negative. Like I don't know if you heard of Harry Vox. Do you know who Harry Vox is? He's a Vox News. He's a journalist, and he predicted this stuff back in 2014. He saw it coming through his journalism. But boy, you listen to him now, it's just like, it's done. Deep State's won. We're freaking, and it's like, oh, okay, I don't want to listen to this because I don't really.
We don't want to mastermind that outcome. I've been working on getting us to mastermind, my viewers at least, to mastermind the reality that they do want. That way, if we all focus on that, and we are thankful, and we emit a thankful vibration for what we want and what's going to happen, then it has to manifest. Especially with a mastermind, you get 1,000 or a couple thousand people together focusing on this one outcome, creating a mastermind above all those individual minds, and we can manifest our desired reality.
I love you saying that because I was just having this conversation with my wife, and her friend was over, and we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and our individual experiences and stuff. But one of the things that we were talking about, and this came to me like fire, like it was part of this download or whatever is happening, and it may seem simple, but it's exactly what you just said, which makes me really pumped up, is because what came to me was, if we want this to change, okay, the social engineers and the enslavers who have been just following the same program for thousands and thousands of years are master planners. They have it so planned out, but because there is so much negativity, deceit, and lies behind what they're doing, it doesn't hold much energy. Now, you can take human beings, if we do the same planning, right? We plan and envision the world that we see as the one that we want to live in. From the time you walk out your door, to greeting people at the store, to going to, on a vacation here, and you just visualize this overall feeling and sensation of this awesome world where you are truly liberated and free. And you're sharing your experience with strangers who really aren't even stranger. Like, visualize that this whole community of people that just feels love and appreciation and trust and comfortability and authenticity. You go out into that world, visualize that, write it down on paper and see it and meditate on it, pray on that intent of seeing that happening. This is going to be the change. I mean, this is what is going to happen, in my opinion, that people need to do. And I've already started doing it. I'm just now starting to talk about, it's almost like be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what this is doing, because that collective power, that gratitude and thankfulness for being alive, and then sharing that heart with your collective brethren and sisters, this is going, that waveform is so much more powerful. And I know people think, oh, that's hokey and all that. No, this is scientifically proven. I've seen people do the science of how the heart of the mind works, how the brain works, and how like your story right there. It's like you can automatically transfer thought, and the strength, that vibration of the love strength and the gratitude frequency is through the roof, and that is shared with us collectively, and that will make a massive change, and that's what I want to see happen. Yeah,
and it's good for us what's happening right now, in a way, if you think about it, because the mass media is showing us everything that we don't want.
Right.
and it's making it much easier to see what we do want. And there's no real gray area anymore. We don't want what it is happening right now and where it's headed. What we do want is a free, sovereign, loving world without all of these toxins that are coming to us in so many different ways. All right, so let's wrap it up. I want you to just give any final thoughts and then let people know again about your podcast, and then that'll be it, because I think this has been awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate it for coming over, Ron. Basically, real simple, just like I just said, I think now is the time of all times to really dig in, and it's a scary time, and it's a very challenging time to be going through. But I really feel honestly that this is going to create immeasurable changes for the positive at the very end of this. And as much as we want to step into the light of love and compassion and gratefulness, you have to also step into the light of courage, because it does take a lot of courage to get out there and do things that not everyone else is doing, like going out to a store without wearing a mask on, saying no and not complying to things. It's very hard not to do that. You just sometimes just want to do it. But if you have and that's just one example, the courage is important. And behind that, you have the backing of being grateful for your experience and being grateful for this, having an opportunity to live out this expression that you're living. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. There always is. And I think we're going to come out of it in an optimistic way. But it's going to be a challenge. But hey, what's life without a good challenge? So this is where we find the contrast. We find we find our straightest core through these challenges as part of being a human being. And this is why we're here. This is the playground we're playing on. So it's all happening for a very specific reason. And if we have the best intentions and we go through it with courage and love and light, I think how can you go wrong?
All right. Thanks for that, Logan.
Thanks
for
man.
being on the show.
Yeah,
remember,
thank you.
Logan's show, Eye of the Heart, capital I of the Heart. Subscribe to it. I'm going to see if I can get Logan on Project Camelot with Carrie Cassidy, with on the Fenton Files with Lorianne Fenton, and on Lamont Patterson's show out there in LA, Can I Play a Play? I'm also going to be sending Logan the documentation and the instructions on becoming a sovereign, because we were discussing that. So
right.
the steps that are in my book, The Solution and Instruction Manual for Sovereignty and Freedom, which I think would also change your vibration, everyone's vibration, once you really feel free from jurisdiction, which is what the book does. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks again, Logan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me come over to your beautiful home.
Oh, you got it, man. Anytime.
I wish we could have shown more of it. It's just gigantic. I think you can hear the echo. That's not a sound effect. It's got like 20-foot ceilings, and I told him he should put a basketball goal up on one of these walls.
That's a
play
good idea.
Full court basketball.
We're not allowed to have them outside because it's HOA, so I like the inside idea. We'll get a full court basketball going in here.
All right.
Ron?
Peace.
Okay, thanks, man.
Yep.